New York City and Los Angeles may be going full communist. And that means entertainment companies are being driven out, even as the celebrities shout, "Give us more, give us more." Government knock down the door and take over everything. The Mamdanis, they love it, but the studios not so much. And now production, as well as the creation engines of entertainment, likely fleeing to places like Texas, Florida, Nevada, and Tennessee. Hello, folks. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's us on the Hype Train, the Pro Show, the Pro Channel, back again, bringing you the news you need to know and helping the drive-bys understand reality. As we dive in, click the like button. And if you see the hype button, the time is ripe to hit the hype. Click it, stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell. Well, it turns out that Mayor Mamdani is spreading socialism, communism all over NYC. It's taken over Los Angeles and California. And now people are leaving in droves, and that includes entertainment companies, moguls, celebrities, everybody. The tech bros, they're out of there. They're all fleeing, going to places like Texas, Florida, Tennessee, and NYC and Los Angeles are turning into new Detroits. It's going to have a huge impact on entertainment. First, let's talk about what's going on. We'll listen in right now from MS Now.
Appear in all sorts of people's ads, all sorts of Republicans' ads to say, this is what you're going to get if you vote for the Democrats, a communist.
You know, I think that is...
This lady on the right is one of the ones who just won. She's asked, are you a communist? Essentially, on MS Now, the friendliest territory she could have. Are you a communist?
That framing is one that I've been very proud to be able to say I don't respond to, one in which I have been very intentional to say I won't be reactive. We are presenting a vision of what we're fighting for, and I think for far too long, we have had politics that is reactive to what Republicans are doing.
Are you a communist? I will not say. That's essentially. Now, why would that be? Okay, it's a very easy thing to respond. Like, are you Republican? I will not say. Are you Democrat? I will not say. That would be very strange, right? Are you a communist? I will not say. I will not be reactive. No, I'm just trying to figure out what are you exactly that we're trying to elect. Okay, here's Mamdani speaking after said woman who refused to say whether she's communist won in NYC.
I have stood next to Daria Lisa and I have said, our next congresswoman. And I've said these words in the way that many of us will say, inshallah. In the beginning...
Now, if you didn't catch that, he's saying, I believe in maybe Arabic, he's saying, praise to Allah.
In the beginning, we hope, but we don't know how close it is. And the closer and closer we get to the day, the more that we believe. And now that language of hope is a language of fact.
And what they're talking about is, well, socialism. In fact, here's one more. This out of the Daily Wire. NYC just elected a Mamdani-backed candidate who blames America for 9/11. Here's some of that.
And finding that, like, you know, the system of capitalism and racism and white supremacy, etc., have all, and Islamophobia have all been used, you know, to colonize lands, right, to take resources from other people. And so this is like a long trajectory. And we're just seeing the manifestations of that continuation, right, with 9/11. And so a lot of times when people are asking us to respond about, you know, attack, right, when if you look back, like, historically, right, you know, a lot of us come from lands that were colonized, lands where wars are being waged, right?
There's no history of that in the Middle East, right?
Or the policies in Europe. And so
in other words, because lands that their ancestors came from were colonized, that justifies what happened on 9/11. Now, the New York Post is reporting this, and I want to say, you know, we're not political here, but this is going to tremendously impact entertainment. And we'll explain in just a second. New York Post is reporting Mamdani-backed lefties sweep NYC congressional primaries as socialist mayor's influence grows to D.C. by Craig McCarthy, Matt Troutman, and Marie Pohl. It says, the Zomentum is real. Socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani's far-left slate of Big Apple congressional hopefuls prevailed, with Firebrand, well, all of them, projected to pull off an AOC-style upset. It says that they won by razor-thin leads, but that doesn't matter. They won, and now they're going into the midterms, and we'll see what happens. But these are socialists. These are not just, you know, your normal, ordinary Democrats. These are avowed socialists at the least. And again, they're refusing to say if they're communists. Now, the effect of this, okay, I'm going to go to Google's AI, and here's what it says about what's occurring. Google's AI, they call it Gemini, says California and New York are experiencing a historic migration outflow driven by high taxes. This is Google. Google is saying this. Driven by high taxes, soaring costs of living, and an increase in remote work. Between 2022 and 2023, and I bet it's exacerbated in the most recent years, the two states posted a combined net loss of 373,000 residents and an estimated $23.5 billion in adjusted gross income. It talks about where they're going. States with no individual income tax, such as Florida, Texas, Nevada, Tennessee, top destinations for departing residents. It goes on to talk about the wealth flight. Los Angeles and New York are experiencing a notable departure of high net worth individuals and major corporations looking to lower their financial burden. Now, why did they just lose 373,000 in 2022 and 2023? Because this data is including undocumented or illegal, whichever the term you want to use, immigration into these states. If you just use U.S. citizens and how many are there or less than, etc., what you find out is they are seeing millions of people flee. Millions of people flee. It's being somewhat offset by people coming in from other countries. In fact, I believe right now that children in New York City, it's like 40 or 50% of the children in New York City have a parent who was born outside the country. And so what we're watching right now, not only is wealth fleeing these states, but we're going to see this exacerbated now by the fact that it's getting worse. These policies are going farther and farther into extremes. And that means, Vera, we're about to watch New York and Los Angeles turn into new Detroits. And because these right now are the top two entertainment hubs of the country and perhaps of the world, this means, see, I could be negative, I could be drab, I could be dire. I don't want to do that because I actually see this as them forfeiting their entertainment status. I see this as them handing it, abdicating, handing over entertainment to the rest of the country. And I think that's what's going to happen. I believe that places like Nevada, Florida, Texas, Tennessee, I believe these places are going to see huge entertainment growth, especially as we move into the new era of new media, where a lot of these people are going. Vera, what do you think? Is it now looking more and more based on the politics and going into communism? Is the door shutting on entertainment in those two places?
Yes, and I would also say, you know, we've seen it happen over the past couple of weeks with movies like Backrooms and Obsession doing really good and even beating out films like The Mandalorian and Grogu. They are definitely forfeiting sort of their position and prestige in this space. And, you know, it's happening in Hollywood, it's happening in video games. These companies have, you know, based their companies in certain places like Sony moving to California. That was their focus. And look at how much Sony has definitely dwindled over the past couple of years, at least in terms of consumer confidence. And so I do definitely think that is going to happen here. And I do think, obviously, you know, it's going to take a very long time before we see a shift in our entertainment, even just with the content that's being created, because a lot of politically motivated people and a lot of activists weaseled their way into these spaces, didn't care about the history, you know, respecting the source material. They just saw a way to make a quick buck. And in a lot of cases, that didn't happen for them. But I do think that we are going to see a shift in pretty, you know, soon. Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got Christian Toto joining us right now. Christian, curious your thoughts on this. And as we go to you, I just want to say, a lot of times we obfuscate, we make it more difficult to understand just how dumb what has happened in New York and California, how dumb it is. We use big words, we use terminologies, and they do this too. But everybody in every walk of life knows that anti-meritocracy is a terrible idea. Like there's no sports team out there that you can say, hey guys, it doesn't matter anymore if we win or lose. It doesn't matter if you try hard. Just show up. It's fine. That's all we need. Just show up. You know what? You don't even have to show up. Just if you want to, come on over and we'll still have the same results. You all know what would happen if a coach did that. Total collapse. And you all know what would happen if that if you tried that at your place of work. We are running that very stupid experiment that's been run before in New York City and California, the locations where most of the entertainment in the United States is made, and they're going to have to flee. They're going to have to leave this.
Yeah, I've been talking glibly on X. I keep saying escape from New York, escape from New York. I actually from New York. I born and bred there. And it makes me sad. And for all the reasons we've just said, it's true. I think that from a cultural perspective, this could be a good thing. I think you're going to get different storytellers telling different kinds of stories. Maybe the gatekeepers won't be as aggressive as they used to be. And I think what we've seen this year from a content point of view is movies like Backrooms and Obsession thriving, and movies like Supergirl and The Mandalorian and Grogu just showing the rot within the system. Those are two IPs that have all the money, all the prestige, all the tools at their disposal, and they've delivered absolute dreck. So maybe this is all happening for a good reason. I also think AI is going to be, leveling the playing field even further, where storytellers across the country are going to be able to share what they want to share on their terms at a much lower price point. So there's a lot of cultural change going on. But you're right. I mean, if it's New York and LA, those are the entertainment hubs, but not for long. We've already seen that happening with comedy, where Austin is rising up because of Joe Rogan and some of those rebel comedians like Shane Gillis. They're congregating there in a blue-ish city because they really are embracing free speech. And it's thriving. I can't wait to visit Austin and check out the comedy scene there, because it really is pretty magical. But you've seen that transformation. One thing also about the culture, when I was growing up, I feel like cultural changes took a while. It was slow. It was methodical. People would adjust their patterns of behavior. Now, it's very quick. And I think what you're all talking about may happen much more swiftly than we can even imagine.
So, Christian, this released The Adventures of Mary Sue. Josh Dawes, former Disney employee, has put this out. He's a 12-year veteran of Disney, leaves for a few months, makes this. This is all made now with the latest technology, and it looks to me like it can be made at 1/100th the cost. And it looks to me like it can be made in a very collapsed timeline. So if this is available for feature-length films upscaled to 8K by the end of the year or next and into next year, I have no idea how New York and California make it. That was already a huge problem for them. This is a massive, people don't understand the level of problem this presents to the gatekeeping system of the studios. And then you add to that, oh, by the way, we're going to adopt at the very least socialism, but probably communist policies for these economies. I have no idea how they will not turn into new Detroits.
I don't either. And, this clip is so interesting. I just interviewed the Josh Dawes for my site, Hollywood and Toto. And the way he describes it was, the technology is great. And yes, the tools are amazing. But it's about story. And I'd go further. It's about an angle, a perspective that we all recognize, but that Hollywood is loath to discuss or embrace or even bring up at all. And, it's this sort of Mary Sue style story of this sort of, heroic woman with no flaws. We're all sick of it on some level, even if we don't think about it. Everyone here talks about it. We think about it. We discuss it. It's kind of just part of our culture of what we share. But the average person doesn't, but they sense it. So that's why these things are going to kind of catch on fire, because it looks good and the story is interesting. And, one thing Josh told me is, I didn't want to be mean to this young protagonist. I didn't want to have her get beaten up. That's not the point here. It's not to be cruel. It's to expose something, a cultural rot within the system. And that's what it does so well.
And another thing to think about this is, Vera, it occurs to me that throughout my life, if you wanted to make movies, if you wanted to be in entertainment, you had to move. There was a time when I was told, for voice work that, hey, you really would need, you need to move. You need to be in Southern California, or you need to be in New York. Those are the two options. There were no other options if you wanted to be in voice work. And, or making video games, same sort of thing.
And it's not that way anymore.
Right. It's actually the opposite now. The opposite is true, right? If you told me, where should you go to make entertainment, I would say, whatever you do, don't go to California or New York, because not only will it be exceedingly difficult, but I think it might be a tremendous waste of your time, because the cost of living is exceedingly high. and they're going to you're going to be back in that bubble where things don't work. We've completely inverted the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that that's great, and I think that that ultimately means that there's going to be more variety, you know, in content, because there are all of these different voices that can be heard now, especially with the latest technology like you just showed off. It is much easier to get into, whether it's, you know, video game development or storytelling and animation, all of these different things, and it opens the door that Hollywood previously had barred. There are going to be new people who tell these new stories, and we are going to see, I think, even more of a divide when it comes to this content, because, you know, as we mentioned, you have Mando and Grogu and Supergirl on one side, and then you have the Backrooms and the Obsessions on another, and they're very different storytellers, very different content, but one side is clearly working and the other side clearly isn't. Now, of course, there is worry that these independent storytellers may, you know, buy into the mainstream and that they want to be in this industry. But I think that this industry, I mean, as it has been, is clearly dying. And the thing is that the people that have sort of dominated Hollywood for so long, they're not going to stop, and they're not going to give up very easily. They are more worried about spreading the message, and they care less about the money. They want to spread that communism, and they're happy to lose the money for that. But they're not just going to give up. And so I think that these independent content creators and storytellers, they do still need to be doing like the most possible when it comes to telling these unique stories, because it is going to be a long fight. That's for sure.
You know, Jonas, I feel very sorry for the people who live in these areas, and I feel very sorry for them because at the same time that they're facing a technological paradigm shift, instead of doing the things that would be necessary to stay competitive, they're actually bringing a blowtorch to a burning building. And this is going to be so awful that as their industries are collapsing, they're going to turn to communism and socialism, the flattening of meritocracy, and it's going to just, I mean, it's going to level, it's going to completely destroy these cities and these areas.
Yeah, I think about the, you know, this may be a strange place to go with it, but if you think about the communities that have built up in New York demographically, I mean, statistically speaking, communism has not been kind to certain ethnic groups, and they happen to also be not in favor with certain Middle Eastern demographics either. So you wouldn't get a mayor that's like a twofer on that one. Some of the liberal backbone of New York, I can see why they're trying to get out of this city. Culture is something that is people can try to dictate it, but I think that one thing that social media has done is shown that it's not truly dictated. There was this layer where the media said what culture was. I remember reading when I was in the 6th grade that bell bottoms had come back. That was news to me because I knew no one who was wearing bell bottoms. And I asked someone to explain it to me. Said, that means that people in New York and California are wearing them. Oh, okay. But the rest of the world, maybe not so much. Yeah. When we see what's going on in New York and what they think is popular in New York, sure, let them have their fun. If we're talking about economic policies that have only bred ruin and death wherever they go, yeah, get that out of the United States. That's not welcome here. Capitalism is the worst, except that it's better than every other system. This is something where I think we've been given an opportunity to see just how bad it can get. And we should just keep watching.
Yeah, and I would say this too, and then Christian, I'd love for you to wrap it up for us. At the risk of being political, there are certain groups that we're seeing rise in New York, and I wonder how much of the various demographics that are united together for this political movement, I wonder how much of that is a union of opportunity, and that as soon as they foment their power, that some of these people who often enjoy the month of June are going to be left out in the dust saying, oh, wait a minute, you never liked us. We were just a tool to achieve this this power.
If I could say union might not be the right word, I think axis might be a better word for it.
All right, Kristen, you get the final word.
Yeah, just real quickly, think about how Hollywood has failed us collectively, why they haven't told stories about why communism fails and why socialism is a terrible, awful, no good idea, why late night TV will not mock any of these new wave of socialists who have genuinely vicious, vile thoughts. They don't even backtrack at this point. They just want everyone to come in the country, even if you're committing. Listen, you can argue back and forth about, you know, an illegal immigrant who's a good, kind person, whether he or she should stay. That's always a fair conversation to have. But they talk about violent illegal alien immigrants, and they don't want them kicked out either. I mean, this is really almost barbaric at times. It's sort of the political and sort of the cultural together, but we don't have a pop culture ecosystem that will expose it, that will mock it, that will explore it, that will tell us why this is bad. We have a corrupt media, obviously. They don't want to do that. But wouldn't it be great if a Jimmy Kimmel talked about free speech in a true way and talked about who's rising up within his ranks and maybe put his foot down and maybe even do a good thing for the country and say, listen, I'm a Democrat, I hate Trump, but by golly, this new wave is going to be really terrible for the culture at large. That's what a late night satirist should be doing. And they'll do nothing of the kind.
Well, that's right. That's why he's giving his seat to Rosie O'Donnell.
That's what I say. Christian, you're so jaded. I mean, I feel like I gotta sing the Aerosmith song to you. You're jaded, sir. Rosie O'Donnell may be the one to come in and say, stop it with the socialism. I mean, she's went to Ireland. She's learned all kinds of things. She's out of exile, Christian.
Not holding my breath for anything warm or wise from Miss O'Donnell.
I thought they drove all the snakes out of that island already.
Oh, Jonas, no. Oh, poor Rosie. All right, folks, things are not rosy in NYC or Los Angeles, and it's a real shame. But it's not a shame for the rest of the country. And so if you take anything away from this topic, please understand that although this is awful for those places, it's grand for the rest of the United States. And it might be better for entertainment. It is better for entertainment because sending this all out, having this be disseminated all across the United States is going to give us a greater diversity of views and entertainment thoughts and, variety. So we'll watch it. But communism taking over the places that used to make our entertainment. You know, we've reached the end yet again. But ladies and gentlemen, we've had fun today, have we not? And until the next time we get to do so yet again, be a friend to the channel. Click that like button. Share your thoughts in the dialogue down below. And if you're not yet subscribed, well, we need you right here on Team Pro. Until we meet again, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.